Welcome back to the Be Forever Cool podcast. My name is Rex Fortyfive, and this evening we got John Grush on the show. Welcome to the show, John. How you doing tonight?
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Nice. A longtime fan. I started at Loudon in 2013. Did the Penguin School on an SV 650, and I did a couple of rounds for the first few years, and then in 2015, I did all the rounds. Pretty much up until like 21, 22. So I've been familiar with you guys for a long time, and it's been it was my first introduction into motorcycle racing. Actually, I bought a bike the year before, did like 11,000 miles on it, and bought Jesse's old SV, and then started racing the next year. So the program is really cool, and it's nice to have in the Northeast and stuff like that. Before we talk about Loudon and NEMRR and stuff like that, how did you get into racing and riding, and what was your story like for you? Was were you young like some of these kids today, or kind of got into it later like myself in my 40s?
No, I was relatively young. 1983. I started racing on a Honda Interceptor 750, and I got brought into it because at the time I was ski racing at the world level on the World Pro Tour, and I had an opportunity to do basically a collaboration between a ski company and a motorcycle company to go to road racing, and I took up the offer and got hooked right away.
Wow. I mean, was that like a natural thing? And was it like downhill speed racing, or?
Yeah, I was, just downhill alpine skiing. Yes.
Oh, wow. Who is it? Haley Cox, I think, did that as well. I had her on the show, which is pretty cool to hear about. And so what was that transition for you, like switching over to bikes? I mean, were you already riding bikes as a kid when you were younger, or you had to like learn how to ride and all that stuff?
I grew up on dirt bikes, and then I had a variety of street bikes, and but big transition to go from the street scene to the race scene, which I think a lot of people went through, and I fell down a lot. My novice year, I went from novice to expert in one season, but I'd fall down a lot.
Wow. That's pretty wild in 1 year. And so like, was it like 84, 85, you started then racing, and was it like Loudon, or was it like East Coast across the country?
1983, I started racing with NEMRR.
Okay.
So, and they, the club, the original club, I think, of what, NEMRR came out of basically was NEMRR, because it went from NEMRR, I think, to LRRS, and then to NEMRR. So, started racing right away, and, it was fun, got hooked, and it was definitely the transition between ski racing and motorcycle racing, pretty similar. I mean, because of being able to visualize apex and where you want to be. And the only difference in skiing is that we have ways of putting the brakes on, but to accelerate, it was all about, gravity.
Got you. Oh man. That's pretty wild. Did you still ski after that when you started racing as well, or was it just?
I ski raced, let me think, up into the 90s.
Nice. And so when you started at I forget the club, NEMRR. When you started, I mean, what was the culture like back then for riders and stuff like that? And
well, the track was, it was Briar at that time. It wasn't New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and it was the original road course that was actually designed for motorcycles. So the track itself was really sweet. I think I definitely prefer the old track versus the new track, and it was rideable in both directions. So we would race the normal way, and then the reverse way was called Nodule, Loudon, spelled backwards. And the pit area was definitely pretty rough. I mean, the bathrooms I don't think you'd want to use, and there was no pavement, no garages, and there was a Briar building which had a spectator area on top of it that would go to, and if you're eating, the restaurant was below it, and if you're eating there when people are on the roof, you'd definitely get some whatever the roof was made out of, sheetrock or tiles, I forget, but you get some elements of that in your food from people stomping up and down above you.
Wow. So a little crazy, maybe a little bit more lawless. I had Paul Duvall on the show, and he was talking about the Frankenstein bikes he would have when he showed up at the track. So was that similar, or you guys? No,
there was definitely some interesting machinery. You know, we had from the Yamaha TZ 125, TZ 250s, and TZ 750s running the track, and then you had full bore 1000cc super bikes at that time, and then you had a lot of involvement from manufacturers and racing in general at that time. They were spending a lot of money.
Wow! So being a club rider, is it safe to call it that? There was a lot more investment in the club scene before the pro level, I assume, back then.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot more assistance and programs available for people, and I think a brand new 750 back then was probably like $3,000. So it was, it's all relative because the dollars, was worth more back then. But it was definitely interesting. Like when the nationals would come, all the big rigs would come with the teams, and when they left, the factory guys didn't want to take all the parts and pieces they had in the trucks, and they basically would offload them to the privateers or the club racers.
Wow, that's pretty dope. So about roughly when did the scene start to change? Was it it started early 90s as far as like the investments from outside?
Yeah, I mean, I stopped racing motorcycles in '89, and then I raised my family, and I came back, I'm pretty sure around 2012, 2013.
Okay.
And when I came back, I drove into the facility and thought I turned the wrong way. It was this super speedway with a tunnel and garages and real bathrooms. And it was like, wow, this is crazy. And originally I came back and I was just going to do track days and have fun. And Miles Fredericks from Street and Competition saw me, and he laughed. He said, yeah, you'll be racing in no time. And then now he gives me a hard time. He goes, yeah, not only did you start racing right away, you now running the whole series. So he says, I one-upped him one, but it was pretty funny.
Wow. So I guess when I started, you came back, and as you mentioned, it was night and day coming through the facilities. Were you, shocked that, like you had mentioned, talked about the money earlier as far as outside investment and stuff like that. Was that, on your radar at the time, or you were just enjoying riding?
No, I think it was just more of getting used to the whole scene, the new track and the new facility, but the vibe was the same, between the riders themselves. It was still, pretty unique. And I've raced in a lot of different places, and I definitely think that the group of people that are racing at Loudon are pretty unique, pretty special. Everyone's genuine, and most people, will take their shirt off the back to help you, which I think, you see a little of that in other organizations, but I think we're definitely pretty good on that aspect.
Yeah, I have to say that's true. Coming in, like I said, growing up in the city, as a kid, I wanted to race cars and raced on the street and did all the foolishness that young kids did. But I never thought about motorcycle racing. I didn't even know that was a thing that, I remember seeing it on TV on Channel 5, and I believe it was Wide World of Sports and stuff like that. So I knew it exists, but like to where I could actually go do it, kind of thing. And since, being in the motorcycle community now for over 10 years, I've there's a lot of people that don't know that's a thing, that you can go race and stuff like that. And then when you get there, you see the community, as you mentioned, is so nice, and guys will give you parts to go compete against them and stuff like that. And that was all new for me and stuff like that, and, I always say, if everyone rode a motorcycle, the world would be a wonderful place. Cause it's like, I can, I could be pulled over on my bike and people on the streets and people ask me if I'm okay. If I'm pulled over in my truck, no one stops. You know what I mean? So the motorcycle community is an awesome community, and I'm glad to be a part of it and stuff like that. So you came back racing, feeling it out and stuff like that. When did you decide that you kind of wanted to do some of the back end stuff and help out and give your time back?
I don't know if I ever really decided that, because when I came back, Eric Wood, was pretty welcoming to me coming back, because I had done some work with his father and helped them out in the Penguin School, and got pretty involved in the Penguin School, and to where I was doing a lot of behind the scenes things with Eric, and then doing classroom teaching and that type of thing for Eric, and it just evolved where it got to the point, I'm trying to think, I guess it's now 5 years ago, the track pulled Eric and I into an office and said, hey, look, we don't want to run motorcycle racing anymore. We don't want to be the promoters. We just want to rent the track. And if you guys want motorcycle racing to continue, we want you to take over the series and make it your own thing, and just pay us rent.
Wow.
And so Eric and I walked out of the office and drove back the track, and we looked at each other and go, what did we just do? What did we just accept? And so at first, Eric and I were co-executive directors, and then we brought Noelle Doucette on to be the series director, and she kind of got, she kind of got pulled into it without much choice and things like that. All of a sudden, she went from just helping us out to being a key piece of everything we were doing, and she still looks at me and goes, I don't even understand how this happened, type of thing. Like, I said, well, don't worry. I never understood how I ended up running the series. And, but like Eric and I and Noelle looked at it and said, how tough can it be to run a motorcycle series? And
I was just going to ask that.
Yeah, we found out that it's much more involved than anyone could imagine. And on top of that, the software program that we were using, the first year we took it over, the guy, the first year, I think he was still there. And then the second year, he said, hey, I'm going to retire, and you have to find a new software program to run your series.
Right.
And then all of a sudden we found out how complicated it really was, because we went to Motorsport Reg, and they said, yeah, we can make it happen and work on it. But, we run 78 different races on a normal event.
Right.
And they're all saying, well, nobody runs that many different classes and races in a 2-day weekend. And we're not geared up for dealing with that. And so, we struggled through, I think, 2 seasons of Motorsport Reg. And in Motorsport Reg, there was some really good things about it. And then there's other aspects that just weren't good for us. I mean, they didn't have a gridding tool to make grids, and we were struggling. And so now we've switched over to Valair, and we were a hybrid with them, because they basically, he's into car racing and agreed to take us on as a project. And he's been great. I mean, it's a California-based guy, Wes, and he listened to what we wanted to improve on and things like that. And we've been developing it as we go. And we definitely have had our glitches and problems, but again, the race community worked with us on it, and we're working through it all, and we keep on developing the program. And I think, we finally got it to the point where it's actually pretty good. So
right.
So
was it shocking? Maybe shocking might not be the word. How much racing is dependent on technology as far as IT and stuff like that, just to make things more centralized and easier. Is that and I guess who had the IT background in the three of you guys?
I mean, I'm definitely, I'm shocked that I was able to figure out how to get on to talk to you today. So I mean, I'm not a computer guy, and Eric is definitely probably more computer savvy. But like after the second season, Eric and I decided that we really just needed one person to spend all their efforts into the racing series, and the other person needed to spend all their efforts into the Penguin Racing School. And so, we kind of decided to split it up, and he would go back to being the one doing everything for Penguin, and I was going to be the one that was responsible for NEMRR, so NEMRR, and that was great. And I still use Eric as a sounding block, and he's like our technical director, and we definitely still communicate, and I bounce things off of him all the time, and he bounces things off of me, and so it's a great relationship still. But then all of a sudden the burden was all on my shoulders, along with Noel. So it's really just Noel and I that run pretty much. We're responsible for the whole program, and we definitely have some key players that help us. Jenny Bouchard, is our registration manager. Chris Bouchard and John Downell are our referees now. John, what is his last name? I can't think of it at this moment, but he's responsible for doing the rules and rule book for us. And Chuck is still doing tech, and so it's we still have, and Laura Cole's doing control, and so we have our key players in place helping us, and John Burbank. I don't know why I couldn't remember his name right then, but it takes an army to make this thing work.
Right. So in 5 years, you took on a project, ownership of a series, and not knowing what you got yourself into. And when you got to look under the hood a little bit, you saw what was going on. But then, you also decide to, make it even, I don't know what the word is, you can fill in the blank as far as, adding the purse to the series, and now having, national guys, international guys, or, men and women come into the series now. And this is the third year of the series as far as the purse, and the purse is huge. How did that come about to start doing that? Because, it's the largest purse in the U.S. that I can think of for motorcycle racing.
Yeah, it's a huge purse, and we were lucky enough. I made an announcement, and that I wanted to make the Loudon Classic big again, and I was hoping to attract national level riders to come and do it, and I was hoping to attract Moto America to come and race with us, and I guess I wanted to prove to them that we could raise the purse and do it. And my goal originally was $100,000 purse, and I ended up getting a phone call from this guy that really loves motorcycle racing. He said, "Look, let's make it the biggest purse paid in the U.S." And I think that was basically, I'm trying to remember, it was 250 or 260,000. Our first big for the 100th Classic, and I said, "Well, is this a 1-year deal only thing?" And he said, "No, I want to see motorcycle racing built back up to the way I remember it in the Northeast, because we used to have a very well attended national every year, and I think between Loudon and Daytona were the two biggest attended races in the U.S. for a long time."
Wow.
And then that, I think the AMA stopped coming to Loudon, I think in 2002, and then it just continually fell off. And so we're running the 102nd Loudon Classic this year, which is still the oldest run race in the U.S. And it's amazing how many people aren't aware that we even race motorcycles here.
Right. Yeah, no, like I alluded to earlier, it's not something, and I'm only an hour and a half away, if that. And it's something that I grew up not knowing that was so close and to go do. And I think that's kind of, one of the reasons why I started this show, because there's a lot of people that didn't know that this stuff exists and you can go do it. And, I've been able to, Troy, who's on the show, I sold him one of my race bikes. I told him about it, and he's brought friends to go racing, and it's the same thing. It's there's not enough information about it. And I remember hearing a few when I was still going to Loudon that even just building back up the racing community in general, what Eric was doing with the Penguin School and stuff, and when we see the riders that started in the Penguin School now in Moto America doing well, so it's like building up the race series and just building up racing back in America. Because from what I gather, just looking at MotoGP and stuff like that, and looking at the old races, the U.S. was on top for a while, and haven't, and somehow, we haven't gotten back there. So like all these programs, we're seeing it now. In the next 5-6 years, there may be some guys, more guys in Moto GP, Moto 2, World Superbike and stuff like that. So is that just the idea? You say build up the racing scene in New England, and is that part of it as well, just to make it recognized for what it was like in the 80s and 90s?
Well, I mean, when again we took over the series, Eric and I looked at it, and I said, Eric, you realize that the average age of racer that we have come to Loudon is in their 40s, the average.
Wow.
And I said, in ski racing, we have all these youth development programs, mentor programs. We should start that with a Penguin School. And Eric and I talked about it. At first, he wasn't sure what my concept was. And, we talked through it, and then we developed, the Penguin program for developing young kids into racing, and lowered the barriers an age and what they need to do. And we were lucky. Our first 2 kids in the program were T. Cobbs and Ben Glotty.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and then we ended up with a whole bunch of more. Brianna came on board. Renee Franco came on board. We just got a whole bunch of really good kids that were great kids, and to watch them develop and move through the ranks and get into the Moto America level has been very rewarding. And now, if you look at it, we probably have, I'm trying to think, 18 people under the age of 21 now, which, was non-existent when we took it over.
Yeah. That is pretty dope. So is the goal to kind of keep the purse going long term?
Yeah, I mean, the goal really was, in my eyes anyhow, was to get it to where it became established, and that Moto America could come in, and I could just tell them, look, we'll provide the purse. You guys can run that, because, the purse, the big purse, is a blessing and a hardship all in one, because with the bigger purse becomes bigger expectations of how we run it, and are we capable of running, a higher level environment, and be successful at it. And the 100th running, was somewhat of a disaster because of the weather, and then dealing with the big teams and their demands and expectations and personalities.
Right.
It was very challenging. And so, I mean, but we, pulled it off. We ran the race in disastrous conditions. It was downpouring, and we couldn't move the race from Saturday, Sunday that year, because the teams needed to go from Loudon to the Ridge on the West Coast. And so, they had to be on the road Sunday. Right. They couldn't be doing a rain delay race. And so, so that made it even more challenging, that we had to get the race off no matter what. And we did. And I think we satisfied most people. And there were some people that, were bummed that we ended it basically on a red flag, which, we just tried to get it to end on a checker, and it just wasn't going to happen. And so, but, we got over that one. So last year's race, we got a little, we had a rain delay, but, we had Mike Wankum from Channel 5 Storm Team. Yep. He's a racer with us. I think Mike. And, he was looking at his radar and all the stuff that he had the ability to look at. And he goes, John, I think this is a window. Let's do it. And we decided to pull the trigger. And, we had, Eric Wood, Shane Narbonne were looking at me like, hey, you're sending us out there, and we don't think it's good conditions, but we lucked out. It was perfect. There, we actually had one person fall in turn 3 in that race. We had no red flags for that year, and so, and we had an exciting race, so we got lucky.
Got you. And what's the feedback been so far from, the first two rounds of this, from the riders and the teams and just even, fans?
I mean, the first two rounds, we've had typical New England weather. It's, I think this round two, the high was 52 degrees and it was wet. And the round one was, we had pretty much Friday and Saturday rain. And then I think Sunday we had clearing by midday type of thing. So we haven't had the best of weather so far. And I think right now it's rained 12 or 13 weekends in a row.
Wow.
So hopefully that trend stops soon.
Right.
Because the Classic's coming up and I got to just stop watching the Weather Channel because it's going. I don't have any hair left anyhow, so I don't know what's going to fall off me next.
Right. Maybe just a little bit wait. What's to expect from the classic coming up outside of the race itself? And has I assume that the list is already filled as far as riders that want to come in. You said with the bigger purse. There's bigger expectations. So is there a lot more things going to be happening outside in and around the track this year?
Well, I mean, last year we tried to bring the baggers in. We had 6 entries and 4 people raced, and so it wasn't a very exciting race to watch. And those baggers are impressive what those guys can do on those things, but they're so expensive to operate and run that there's just not that many of them. So we decided to step away from the baggers, and this year we added our Street Fighter class, which is basically based off of Moto America's Super Hooligans class. And I think it's a more relatable class. And it's interesting. We had a lot of local guys go out and buy, bikes that are eligible for that class to be in it. And that purse for the Street Fighter itself is $100,000. Oh, purse for that one. And so
buy a bike myself.
yeah, exactly. And so it's but we do have some national guys coming for both events to run the classic and to run the Street Fighter. And but it's, again, it's still tough. They're going to go from Road America, which is in Wisconsin, to Loudon. And then from Loudon, they have to go to the West Coast again, to the Ridge. So it's, some of the bigger teams that wanted to do it, they just, can't figure out the cost to do it. And then the time to be able to get everything back and forth. So we'll see, but we still should have at least, I'd say, 8 to 10 top national riders for the classic. And I'd say anywhere from 6 to 8 top guys for the Street Fighter class.
Wow. Man, that is pretty impressive. I am looking forward to hearing about it because I won't be there. And I know we should mention the NEMRR series, and the website would be NEMRR.com is how people can get information on that.
They can get information. They can buy tickets for that. I mean, tickets are pretty reasonable for our event. A 3-day ticket, there's racing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's $40. And then we sell a VIP ticket for $70, which gets you access to some better stands and positions, but and then some special parking. But it's still really reasonable comparative to what other people are charging, and I think that's what we want to do. And we've also created for the local riders, excuse me, is a locals purse. So if you raced in 2 races plus the classic last year and 1 race before the classic this year, you're eligible for the locals purse. And so it's basically our way of thanking the people that come to us every weekend and giving them the ability to make more money than they've ever made motorcycle racing before. So and we offer that purse in the Street Fighter and the Classic for locals.
Okay. Let me ask a question about Moto America. You said you wanted them to take over and handle it. How's that relationship with the folks from Moto America? How's that?
I mean, Moto America is a great organization. I mean, and Chuck Asklin and their FIM Representative Dan came, inspected the track. They gave us a list of things they'd like to see improved, and the track was willing to make all those improvements. The only thing that Moto America wanted to see is, like all of us, is to see the track repaved. And originally, the track was supposed to be on the budget for their capex to be able to be repaved, and they ran into a problem with erosion underneath the grandstands, basically, and that turned into $1 million fix. And so the capital to get into the paving program, was deeply affected by that. And so, I mean, we'd all love to see Loudon repaved. I mean, even when you raced last time, it needed to be repaved at that time. And I think hopefully eventually someday it will be done. And Moto America really wants to see it repaved before they come.
Gotcha. Well, John, I want to thank you for coming on, man. You want to tell folks how they can find you and do send out any message?
Myself, you can just go to John, John, at NEMRR.com. And, or, most of the questions that you have, you can just go onto our website of NEMR.com. And, you can do that. But if anybody has any more questions or wants any more information, more than welcome to contact me directly.
Okay, awesome. And I'll add the description and a link as well to this video as well. Loudon Classic, 102nd running or third?
102nd running, and the big race is on June 14th.
Nice. I've been telling people about that, and I wish I'm going to make it, but I do have some friends that's going to get up there. John Grush from NEMRR. Thank you for coming on, man.
Yeah, I guess the only other thing I want to mention is that the race itself is supposed to be live streamed by Kaplan, Kaplan America, on YouTube. And so they're planning to do a whole live stream. And so you being away, you should be able to watch it live or watch it later, because it'll be on there.
Can you repeat that again one more time?
It's Kaplan. So Kaplan America is the YouTube channel. So
okay, awesome. I will definitely be watching there. Thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for your time.